notice when you're not getting the proper fuel? Who wants to go? Who wants to go take that one?
I'll jump in. For my experience in international travel, we're not always in the best conditions, and so having the base of the proper nutrition going into the competition allows us to weather the not so right-sized beds, not the best food at the venues and stuff like that. So it really helps get me prepared going into it.
Absolutely. The nutrition during training is almost more important than competition day. It's what you do in all of the days leading up for the years on end that gets you to that point.
Absolutely.
I'd like to add to that as well. One of the most important things as you're going through your training is recovering from day to day and the nutrition that's important in that. But the things that get you off track and the things that really will dislodge your training and your competition is being sick or getting the flu or the cold. Right before a competition, there's all this stress, there's all these things going on with your body. And so having the right nutrition for traveling, getting to the competition is so important. Peaking at that day, or Ricky can talk to you about that, right? Super Bowls, I mean, you gotta be ready at that day, at that moment, on that second. So same with me and my Ironman. You get ready for a 12-hour race. If you're not feeling good on race morning, you're in trouble. So absolutely, nutrition is a vital part of that. And for instance, when I'm not taking my JuicePlus, I'm definitely getting sick more often and a lot easier. So.
I think that's so important for athletes, but it's critical for all of us. I mean, we have to come to play for the game of life, right? We have to be there. If mom goes down, we've got trouble. So, it's not just on Olympic Day, it's not just the Super Bowl, but it is for all of us and for every day of our life that we really want to make those moments matter the most. Anyone else want to add about kind of nutrition?
I'll just add something here. So growing up in my family, nutrition was always really important, and I had my grandparents who had a 2,000-acre farm, so I would grow up going out into the farm picking carrots that were like literally 2 feet long, like they were massive. And so I was around this healthy environment, and as I started to get older as a young athlete, even at 12 years old, I started going to races by myself, didn't have my mom to be able to home cook meals for me. And so finding ways to keep my nutrition consistent was really important, because what you put into your body is what you're gonna get out of it. No matter if you're just trying to take care of kids, if you're trying to do a 5K, if you're trying to do aerial skiing like me, whatever it is, you need to be able to feel good to be able to do those things. And so for me, having my JuicePlus so that I can keep that nutrition consistent, because when I'm traveling across the world, whether it's for training or for competitions, I don't change my gear, so why would I change my nutrition? Even though a lot of the places have very poor food choices for us, like, some places will go and it's only fried eggs and white bread. That may not be optimal, but at least I can have my little JuicePlus in my backpack where I know I'm still getting some of the nutrients that I need to be able to perform.
I'm going to add to that as a former athlete. These guys are still performing.
I'm with you.
I think looking back, it's what Winter just said. It's about consistency. It's about doing it on a regular basis, especially now that I'm not competing anymore. But when I was competing, it was about performing at the highest level, and what you put in your body, and that's how you perform. When you don't put the right nutrients and essentials in your body, you're lethargic, your endurance lacks, and I think that's so important now that I'm not playing in everyday life. It's about consistency, and it's about doing it day in and day out, and that's why this product's helped me amazingly, because I feel like I did when I was playing, and it's because of the consistency, and I think that's so important.
Absolutely, consistency counts. It counts in the training that you're doing every day, the amount of push-ups, the not so fun stuff in the gym, but it counts in our nutrition, and it builds. What we do today matters, not just for today, but 5-10 years down the road. And I think as a former athlete myself, it's tough, because when you don't have that one goal to train for, all of a sudden, oh, well, if I miss a day here, if I miss a day there, I don't eat great here, it's not gonna matter too much, but to your point, it does. It matters for life. Did you want to add anything? Absolutely.
Yeah, one thing that I realized is that, brain fart. Wasn't gonna
Sorry. I sprung one on your face, sorry.
Like everyone was saying, what you eat every day is really important. Being an endurance athlete in an endurance sport, I consume like 7,000 calories a day. I can eat a lot of junk food and it won't necessarily affect the composition of my body, but it will definitely dictate how my practice and how my race is gonna go.
Absolutely. All right, so this next question is for you, Eric, because you just started taking JuicePlus recently. Can you give us a little update on how the products are working for you?
So far, it's working pretty well. Like I said, I haven't been taking it that long, but I'm already starting to feel the effects. It's the recovery aspect that my fellow athletes have mentioned. It's being able to go just a little bit harder in the gym, just be able to push just a little bit more on the court. Just it allows that recovery, and I'm definitely very grateful for that.
It's an important part, being able to recover for the next game, for the next training. All right, so here's a fun question. I think a lot of us, when we watch sports, right, we think about the highlights, the good times, the gold medal moments, the big win. But I think as athletes, we also remember the struggles and the falls, and the injuries, and the moments we just wanted to give up. So I'm gonna ask you guys if you have a favorite fail, or maybe just one you can at least laugh about now. They're deciding which one.
I'll start us off here. So I've shared my story before, so some of you may know this, but one I would say of my failures that looking back at now I can laugh at the time was not funny or was not enjoyable was when I fractured my entire right side of my face. So I was training on water ramps, which is how we train all summer long in my sport, and I happened to just come into the pool at a non-optimal position with my fist just slightly in front of my face, and when it hit the water it drove through my face, so I literally punched myself in the face. And at the time obviously that wasn't funny, but looking back I don't know if I'm really strong or really weak that I was able to break my own face with my own fist. And so I look back at that experience now and obviously can laugh at it, but it's because I was able to overcome that. I had the nutrition behind me. I had a team of surgeons and people who made me a custom-made mask, so that I was able to start jumping just 3 weeks after fracturing the whole right side of my face. And so I think that part of nutrition is super important because I was able to get back so fast. I didn't have to deal with a ton of inflammation. I mean, to be able to go 40 feet in the air and then be laid back in that same pool just 3 weeks later, I think is a testament to having good nutrition behind you.
I'll go ahead. Well, first, that was amazing failure. That's awesome. I cannot follow that, but I'll try. I think my favorite failure, and actually, now I think as time goes on, mindset is the most important to me. And, I don't frame it really as a failure, but really as a learning lesson, right? We know that when you fall and you get back up, but for me, the most memorable is my first Ironman. First attempting an Ironman for me was just this daunting task of how am I ever going to get through 140 miles, right? So 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike, and a marathon all in one day, and just with your arms. I'm like, wow, how am I going to do this? And I'd never swam before, and I didn't have a hand cycle when I first started the process. And so I got through this 2.4 mile swim after getting seasick and was slow and wanted to puke in the water. And then I got on my bike and got through the lava fields and got about 8.5 hours into the bike, and the wind blowing on your chest and just torture. And then getting to mile 106 of the 112 miles, and them having me pulled from the course because I didn't make the time cutoff because the wind was too much and I just was too slow that day. And so for me it was heartbreaking to get into what we call the Sagan wagon, the minivan at the very end of the race, and with my head held pretty far down. And but from that moment and looking back at it years later now, got so many lessons. And the first was that really doing inventory as to why it happened and what it was. And the sheer fact was I wasn't fast enough and I hadn't worked hard enough and I hadn't worked long enough. All of you guys have challenges in front of you, and I'm here to say, when you don't give up, and you keep going, and you realize that anything good in your life never comes without hard work, and it may not happen in a month, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, but whatever it is, if you never give up, there's no way it won't happen, right? So many lessons from that.
Failure is a pretty emotional topic. I don't know if I could say I've ever failed and been favorable of it. But one that I've definitely learned a lot about was back in 2016 when I was trying to make the Olympic team. I was 2 years out of college and I figured that would have been my best chance to make it. For every event, 2 swimmers qualified, and I was going in seated second. And I thought if I could just go best time, no problem. Everyone else would have to go an even better time. I won the preliminaries and was the #1 top seed in the United States going into the finals for my best race. And it was very nerve-wracking. I may have lost my focus a little bit, but I succeeded in going a best time, and I ended up 4th. I actually just barely beat 5th place, and I was obviously devastated. I thought that was probably my last chance. But it took me about a month to finally realize that whether it's qualifying for a team like World Championships or the Olympics, or even winning an event like that, you know, trying to win a medal, it's not so dependent on how fast you go, but it really depends on a lot of the other competitors as well. And I finally realized, you know, after such a big failure that I was determining my success based on everyone else. And, you know, if I'm gonna be an Olympian, it'll happen. But I needed to start focusing on my own success and being the best version of myself that I can be. So I figured maybe next year go best time again and keep going after that, one step at a time.
Everybody's cheering you on.
My biggest failure, best failure, would be I was an alternate for the 2007 games. And so I got a lot of the gear, but I didn't get to go. And I realized that it was because I wasn't the best teammate. And the captain and the coaching staff kind of sat me down afterwards because I was fresh out of college as well. And team sport, you kind of have to be a really good teammate. And I dropped the ball, and it gave me a really good, you know, kick in the butt to like, no, you got to do a lot more. And within 4 years, I was named captain of that team. And then I was lucky enough to go to the next Paralympics. So, yeah.
I think for me, my journey through my NFL career was, my biggest failure was my first 9 years. You know, I got drafted by, you know, when you play 17 years and you play for 6 different teams, it's not all roses. It wasn't a smooth journey, so to speak. And so from Arizona to Seattle to Chicago, I think the best we were as a team was 8-8. A lot of 4-12, a lot of 3-13s. There were a lot of seasons where really contemplated, do I still want to do this? You know, making a lot of money, having some personal success, but as a team, it just wasn't fun anymore. You know, it was a struggle. And then your family's moving from Phoenix to Seattle to Chicago, and really weren't making any roots in any one particular place. And I remember just praying about, Lord, I just want to feel what it feels like to win. I just want to win. I've never really won at any level. And I'm seeing guys, my peers, guys that I played in college with, guys that I've gotten to know through the journey of seeing them raised and hosting the Lombardi Trophy and having success in the playoffs, and I just want to have a winning record. I just want to be on a team that's winning. And it was a struggle. And then, lo and behold, I go to the St. Louis Rams. And our first year, real funny, I had an opportunity to go back to Phoenix and then decided to go to St. Louis, but of course that year, my first year in St. Louis, we went 4-12 and the Cardinals went to the playoffs. And I was like, well, maybe I made the wrong decision, but like I said, I prayed about it, and all of a sudden we become the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams. Everybody's scoring touchdowns. Everybody on the team, from eligible tackles, tight ends, all our receivers, running backs, but guess who hadn't scored a touchdown? This guy. But it really made me realize this is what I wanted. I'm finally on a winning team, and we got a great group of guys with character, and just, man, I loved coming to work every day and just being around those guys and just being a part of something special. And then the NFC Championship game, I make the catch to send us in the Super Bowl, and all my dreams have come true. I'm just finally being part of a winning team. And then we win the Super Bowl, and then the next several years, 7 years, I go to 3 other Super Bowls, and it was just an amazing experience. But it just, all those 9 years prior, leading up, that hard work and just trying to just, you know, sometimes we feel like in this business we're just hitting that wall, and eventually you just keep working, you keep busting your tail, and you surround yourself with your teammates and the group of people that you're surrounding yourself with, and good things are going to happen. And you're going to break through those barriers. And me playing in the NFL for 17 years is no different than building a business with JuicePlus, and it's a lot of hard work, and it's been a great journey. And so for everybody out there, just keep fighting, keep believing, because it's going to happen.
It's so important to really think about our failures, because as much as we don't want to, that's what we learn the most from. When we make those mistakes, when we face those challenges, we learn so much. We just keep being willing to work and push forward and learn from those mistakes. And that kind of brings us